And we're live. Welcome back or welcome to the Truth Comes to Light podcast, where everything done in the dark is going to come to light. Every single detail in this world that is done in the dark is going to come to light. I'm your host, Jay Colvin, and welcome to the show. For those of y'all that are new on the Truth Comes to Light podcast, we talk about news from all over the world, the music industry, and more. Please be sure to check out my previous podcast episodes on the channel. And also, please be sure to tune into Real Spill Wednesdays. On Real Spill Wednesdays, y'all, we talk about life topics and motivational quotes. Please, if you are interested, please be sure to tune in to Real Spill Wednesdays. Also, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, get the latest updates on when I post a full podcast episode or a full Real Spill Wednesday. Been consistent over 250 videos. We're coming up on that 300 video mark. I really appreciate each and every one of y'all that have showed love to the channel, whether that's liking, commenting, doing everything, sharing, doing everything that y'all possibly can to support the channel. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. We're now at, I believe, 113 subscribers on the channel, and we're going to constantly be going up. So please hit that subscribe button and also turn on those post notifications. Y'all follow me on IG, TikTok, and X at The Truth Comes to Light podcast, because who knows, whatever I post on either one of those social media platforms is like a foreshadow for what the next podcast episode or the next Real Spill Wednesday will be about. I was tweeting like crazy yesterday about March Madness, which we will be talking about in this podcast episode. I was tweeting like crazy. And I want y'all to engage with me, and I want y'all to feel as though y'all can engage with me, and I can engage with y'all on the social media platform. So please be sure to follow, whether that's IG, TikTok, or X, any one of them, or even all three. Follow all three of them if y'all can. Just support the channel. Support each and every one of the social media platforms. And what I'm starting to do now is ask for Real Spill Wednesday topic suggestions and also podcast topic suggestions. So when I ask for them topic suggestions, y'all go ahead and reply to it. So with that in mind, let's get straight into this podcast episode. There has been a lot of topics going on, a lot of things going on in the world. It's been 2 weeks, it's been a little over 2 weeks since I have recorded a podcast episode. And within this 2 week time frame, boy, oh boy, a whole lot of things has been going on, from March Madness to Metro Boomin and Future dropping their album to Diddy getting in some more trouble. We'll be talking about all of those things. But first, how has y'all bracket been for March Madness? That's the first thing that I have to say before we get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast episode. How has y'all March Madness bracket been? My bracket has been all the way messed up. In my last podcast episode, which I did with my dad and Wayne Cartwright, we did our March Madness predictions, both men and women. And boy, oh boy, when I tell you my bracket is so messed to the Final Four. I should have known that was a stupid choice. But it just felt as though Arizona, the pathway that they had to success, it was going to happen. Caleb Love going up against his former team in North Carolina, it just felt like the story writers, the script writers was going to hit it. It just felt like it. But they lose to Clemson. So I'm just like, are you serious? Then you have USC. I had USC for the girls. Let me go ahead and pull it up for y'all. Put the women's bracket challenge. For the girls, I had USC, and they lost to UConn in a very, very good game, which we'll be getting into. I had USC winning. USC against South Carolina. No, USC against Stanford. That's who I had. And I had USC winning, but they end up losing. So my bracket is all the way messed up. How is y'all bracket? Is it really messed up like mine? As y'all saw in me showing the Arizona one, it was at 25% accuracy. Versus this one, it's only at 62. My championship team is gone. I had the Elite Eight for South Carolina and Oregon State in there. I also had USC and UConn. I had that right. I had Stanford making it, obviously, and they end up losing to NC State, a very good NC State team. And I had Iowa losing to Colorado, but Iowa proved me wrong, and I had LSU making it to the Final Four, and they end up losing to Iowa. So let me know down in the comment section, how has y'all's March Madness bracket been, both men and women? This has been a very good March Madness. Both men and women has been very entertaining, very good television for us fans. So let me know down in the comment section on how has y'all March Madness bracket been. Do y'all still have y'all teams that y'all think is going to win the championship in y'all bracket? Is it still good? Do y'all still have teams like UConn, South Carolina, whoever? Let me know, do y'all have those teams? Is y'all bracket still somewhat good? Or is it like mine and clearly you see Arizona and USC out of the picture? So, yesterday, as I'm recording this video the next day. But so really, yesterday, we got to see one of the best games in women's college basketball. The most highly anticipated game in women's college basketball. Last year, March Madness, Caitlin Clark versus LSU recorded a total of 9.9 million views on the game. This game, with high hopes, highly anticipated, this game recorded 12.3 million people that watched the game. It was the most viewed women's college basketball game, and it lived up to the hype. And the legacy of Caitlin Clark still rolls on, as in the rematch of last year's national championship game, the Iowa Hawkeyes this time come on top, winning against LSU 94-87 to advance to their second straight Final Four appearance. Caitlin Clark was amazing, dropping 41 points, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds, being the only female to drop a 40-point, 10-assist game in the Elite Eight. The only one. And she dropped it last year in the Elite Eight versus Louisville. So that is really dope to see. Iowa outscores LSU 24-13 in the third quarter to propel them to victory. Caitlin Clark was absolutely amazing in the third quarter. For LSU, Angel Reese was balling from start to finish. She was in foul trouble, and she ended up fouling out later in the game. But at the beginning, after Iowa was hot, they started off, I think they were up 19-7 in the first. In the first few minutes, Kim Mulkey calls a timeout. She gets her team together. Angel Reese gets a couple of steals off of some bad passes by Caitlin Clark, and she has LSU roaring back, and she overall played a good game. She rolled her ankle, came back in the game, and overall played a very good game. But it wasn't enough to get the W. And Haley Van Lith was getting killed by Caitlin Clark the whole game. Like I said, Caitlin Clark had 41, 12, and 7. Kate Martin, 21 and 6. Sydney Offtoffer had 16 and 5. Hannah Stalky had 8, 5, and 1. And Gabby Marshall had 3, 2, and 4. Angel Reese, like I said, played a very good game. She had 17 points and 20 rebounds. Anissa Mora had 14 and 14. Michaela Williams had 18 and 7. And Flau'jae Johnson had 23 and 6. Flau'jae Johnson had 23 and 6. But that was probably one of the most quietest 20-point games that I have seen. Really, the X factor was Angel Reese. Angel Reese was the one, 17 and 20, that was really had her team, kept her team in the game. And personally, I felt as though LSU, in order for them to win the game, I already knew Angel Reese was going to get hers. Flau'jae Johnson was going to get hers. But they needed someone else to step up. And if Anissa Morrow didn't step up, if she didn't step up, then I felt as though the game would have been lopsided. We already knew Caitlin Clark was going to do hers. But for Iowa's team, the X factor was, can Iowa's role players help support Caitlin Clark? We knew Caitlin Clark was going to get her 30 points easily because she runs that whole team. Caitlin Clark is a one-man wrecking crew for the Iowa Hawkeyes. A one female, should I say, wrecking crew for the Iowa Hawkeyes. But she needed supporting cast. And if she got the supporting cast that she needed, then Iowa was going to come out with the W. And sure enough, Kate Martin got 21 points. Sydney Althofer had 16 points. Key buckets that propelled Iowa to win. Like in the past couple of games before the tournament, she didn't really have the support from her role players that she needed. Versus in the tournament, her role players, Sydney Althofer, Kate Martin, Gabby Marshall, they start playing better. And with them playing better, it made the whole team run. Caitlin Clark makes her team better. We know Caitlin Clark is going to make her team better. But if they don't show up, Iowa's in trouble. And that was my biggest concern with Iowa when they reached the tournament. When they won the Big Ten championship, the way that they won it, yes, they won it in overtime. But like I said, they didn't have control in the game. They didn't have control in the game. If it wasn't for Caitlin Clark coming and roaring her team back after being down by 7 with 2 minutes to go, they would have lost that game. And you clearly saw in that game, she didn't have no supporting cast. So coming in the tournament, I was a little bit concerned on are people like Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin, Hannah Stuckey, all of these girls gonna come up and show. But if they didn't show up, I felt as though they were going to lose to Colorado. I actually had Colorado beating Iowa because how Colorado was playing the season, the teams that they beat LSU first game of the season. So I thought Colorado was going to come to play. But just like we saw in that game and just like we saw in this game, Caitlin Clark's role players stepped up. She had a supporting cast. And Caitlin Clark in the third quarter, oh my goodness. Caitlin Clark is literally what Steph Curry was doing in like 2018, 2017. When every move that Steph Curry was doing, if Steph Curry hit a crossover or if Steph Curry hit a behind the back, you already knew. Once he hit that move and got a little bit of space, you knew that when he put that shot up, oh, he was going to hit it. There was literally the one play where she hit Haley Van Lith with a behind the back, a simple behind the back, and I'm watching the game and I'm like, oh yeah, she finna hit it. And she didn't even shoot the shot yet. She literally just hit a behind the back and then that's when she shot it. But before then, when she hit the behind the back, I was like, oh, she got it. She finna hit it. Boom, hit it. Then Haley Van Lith getting cooked all across screens. Haley Van Lith couldn't guard nobody. And my personal opinion, I feel as though what killed LSU is they made the wrong adjustment. They made the adjustment that they needed to make too late in the game. I get Flau'jae Johnson had 4 fouls and Flau'jae Johnson was in foul trouble. But you put Flau'jae Johnson on Caitlin Clark to start off the game instead of putting 5'7" Haley Van Lith on 6 foot Caitlin Clark. We know that Caitlin Clark is going to cook. Every single time that Caitlin Clark came down the court, she was going to cook. It was barbecue chicken all night and really in the third quarter. She coming off screens and hitting fadeaway threes. She crossing up Haley Van Lith and shooting threes in her face. She's 5 inches taller than Haley Van Lith. What do you expect, Kim Mulkey? That was the only thing I feel as though Kim Mulkey did wrong in the game. But when Iowa went up early, she called timeout and got her team together. This game was tied. The game was tied at halftime. Very good game. It was just that third quarter, Haley Van Lith was getting her ass cooked every single possession. Every single possession. And that was the difference maker in the game. Haley Van Lith not only got cooked on defense, but she didn't have a good offensive game either. Haley Van Lith is not a point guard. Let me repeat that. Haley Van Lith is not a point guard. When she transferred to LSU, it was already a mistake from day one. You've seen throughout the whole entire season, it's been inconsistent with Haley Van Lith. compared to when she was at Louisville. Her numbers have dropped significantly because the way Louisville played with Hailey Van Lith was a shooting guard. Versus now, when you put a score first guard as a point guard and you have to learn the role of being a point guard when you know that that's naturally not your position, it's going to be difficult for somebody to adjust. Especially when you have talent like LSU has with Angel Reese, who wants the ball, with Flau'jae Johnson, who wants the ball, with Malaysia Johnson, who's a freshman that wants the ball. Morrow wants the ball. You have girls other than Hailey Van Lith, that want the ball. It doesn't fit. So right then, you knew that Hailey Van Lith did not belong on a team. So if I was Hailey Van Lith personally, I would get out of LSU. You gotta transfer. You can't go to the draft now because of the simple fact that this game and this season dropped your draft stock significantly. And girls gotta be in college ball for 4 years. So right now your draft stock has went down. You can't play defense. You're not a point guard, and you went to a system to where they want you to play point guard and give the ball to Angel Reese and Flau'jae Johnson and let them work when that's not you. When you put a score first person, somebody that wants to score, their job mainly is to score. Then they get their teammates involved. I know what it was like because that's me. When I played basketball, that was me. I was a score first, pass second every single time. You got to go to a team to where that fits your skill set, but don't go to a team that they have all the talent. You lost to Caitlin Clark in the Elite Eight and they advanced to the Final Four, and you see that LSU, they smacked Iowa last year, and you want to go where all the talent is. You can go where all the talent is if it fits how you play. But since LSU, when we saw it from day one, when you got there and we saw the first game, we saw clearly that is not how Hailey Van Lith is. Hailey Van Lith is not a point guard. She is strictly a shooting guard. She will be a good shooting guard. She is a good shooting guard. She was good at Louisville, but this season, it's not it. And Iowa exposed Hailey Van Lith every single possession from the moment the game started. From the moment that whistle was blown, Caitlin Clark exposed Hailey Van Lith. So I personally feel as though Kim Mulkey, from the start of the game, you put Flau'jae Johnson on Caitlin Clark, a better defender. When they did that at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, Caitlin Clark ain't scored. Caitlin Clark did not score. But the moment they put Hailey Van Lith the whole entire game and they kept doing picks and rolls, and Caitlin Clark was just getting whatever she wanted. If Hailey Van Lith went under the screen, she's popping it in her face. If she goes over the screen, she's heading straight to the rim, passing it to Haley Stuckey or any other person outside, and they're hitting it. Kate Martin hitting it every time. That's what it was. That was the story of the whole entire game. It was the Caitlin Clark show. This game was really good for women's college basketball. Very good for women's college basketball. I was literally looking at the highlights of it. No, matter of fact, I wasn't even looking at the highlights of that game. I was actually looking at the highlights for a whole nother game. And I saw that the highlights for LSU and Iowa got 1.4 million views in less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours. So if it got that amount on the highlights, I could only imagine how much it was live. And literally 15 minutes before I started recording this podcast, it came out 12.3 million. This is good. This game had high stakes. It was really, what side are you going to be on? Are you going to be on the LSU side and they advance to the Final Four with the chance on going back-to-back with Angel Reese? Or did you want to be on the Caitlin Clark side with the legacy that she has, having the most amount of points in men or women division ball, the most amount of threes, winning the Big Ten championship for a third straight year, heading back to the Final Four for a second straight year, and also potentially going to the championship game and winning it. Like I said in the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I said that if Caitlin Clark makes it, this will cap off an amazing career at Iowa. Caitlin Clark, like I said in the last podcast, Caitlin Clark is the best offensive women's basketball player we have ever seen. And it's not close. The way that she is going to change the game of women's college basketball is going to be something. It's going to be something. It's going to be crazy. You're going to want to see more women play like Caitlin Clark. And she's not only going to change the women's game, but if she plays the way that she's playing in college professionally, she's going to change women's WNBA. She's going to change the WNBA because people want to see Caitlin Clark play. So if people want to see Caitlin Clark play, number one, that's going to bring the money that the WNBA always needed. She's going to bring the revenue. So it's not only going to help her, it's going to help all of the women basketball players currently playing. You see Brittany Griner out here playing overseas. They want to make more money. The WNBA isn't making money that they need to be making. They're not making enough. But if you bring somebody like Caitlin Clark, who is a generational talent, this girl is a generational talent. No question about it. And if she can continue this hot run in the WNBA, she can already be the best WNBA player if she continues what she's doing. But she's going to change the game, not only with her play, but how WNBA players get money. These contracts are going to get bigger, more guaranteed money. They needed somebody that could change that. We all knew that the WNBA, that they should get more money than what they have right now. I'm not saying that they should get the same as NBA players, but they should be getting more money than what they're getting right now. But nobody is watching it. But the reason why nobody isn't watching it is because of the simple fact they don't have a generational talent like somebody like Caitlin Clark in this era. Versus in the NBA, you have Jordan, Kareem, Wilt, Bill Russell, LeBron. Now in this new generation coming up, you have Victor Wembanyama, who's a generational talent already, and he's doing big things. Luka, Ja Morant, all of these guys, Kevin Durant, all of these guys. There's too many great talents in the NBA. Not saying that there's no talent in the WNBA. There are so many good players in the WNBA. But what I'm saying is, for a fan, a casual fan, they're going to take it as isn't nothing that there's it's not catching enough attention. It's not catching their eye like the NBA is. Not saying that the WNBA don't have talented players. I don't want y'all to get that. I don't want y'all to take as though that is what I'm saying. They have all the talent. These are some great NBA players, some great basketball players. But they're just not going to get the recognition. But if you bring somebody like Caitlin Clark, who to a casual watcher, if they just look at Caitlin Clark and see what she's doing in college, guess who they think of? Steph Curry. They want to see somebody like Caitlin Clark. They want to see somebody like Steph Curry translate to women's basketball. So now since they see Caitlin Clark, who plays like an NBA player, they're going to want to see her succeed in the WNBA. So more eyes are going to come to the WNBA. And then that's when they're going to realize, oh, there's more talent than just Caitlin Clark. We come to look at Caitlin Clark, but we can't overlook the talent that the WNBA has. And that's what's going to catch the viewers. And that's where the money is going to come. Caitlin Clark is going to bring attention for herself, but she's also going to bring it for all of the WNBA players. She just is. So it's great that we're having a talent like her. Something that we probably will never see come to the WNBA. But going back to the LSU and Iowa game, Hailey Van Lith, like I said, she has to transfer. She has to get up out of there. Where she'll go, I don't know. But Hailey Van Lith does not fit at all. Flau'jae Johnson, she had 23, but it was a quiet 23. She was in foul trouble too much. So it didn't feel as though like Flau'jae Johnson had the most amount of points on the team. It just felt as though Angel Reese was there and she was doing everything that she possibly could to win the game. And Anissa Morrow, she needs to step up just a little bit more to give LSU a better chance on winning. If she had 18 points or 20 points, because she had 14, she had a double-double, I personally felt as though she was the X factor. If she could get to that 20 mark, oh yeah, that would have been enough to LSU, and they would have won that game. They would have won that game. Personally, I didn't think that Iowa was going to win this game, but this game proved a lot. It proved not only that Caitlin Clark is just a generational talent, but the role players can actually step up to the test when it mattered most. You saw it against Colorado, and you see it here against the defending national champions. So this game was top tier. Top tier for just a casual watcher that has never looked at the WNBA and they just, not the WNBA, that looks at women's college basketball and they just hear about Angel Reese and they hear about Caitlin Clark, but they've never looked at college ball and they just decide to look at this game. You were in for a treat. You were in for a treat. You wasn't let down at all. You can't tell me that you watched this game and was let down. You wasn't. This was a very good game from start to finish. It was tied. No, let's backtrack. Iowa was up early. LSU comes roaring back. It was tied at halftime. The Stars are playing good. Iowa goes on a big third quarter to basically propel them to victory. But in the fourth quarter, LSU tried coming back. So it was good throughout the whole entire game. It wasn't no blowout or none of that. So this was good, not only for us casual fans, but for Caitlin Clark and her legacy. And like I said in the last podcast episode, if Caitlin Clark can somehow, some way propel this team to a national championship and win it, this will cap off one of the best college basketball seasons for an individual, men or women. Caitlin Clark is that girl. So you gotta just appreciate what you're looking at. And if you haven't looked at Caitlin Clark, if this was your first game that you looked at, go back and look at Caitlin Clark highlights. Go back and look at Caitlin Clark games. It's not like she just started this. She's been doing this. And Caitlin Clark has just been on a tear ever since she has been recognized. So, good win for Iowa. And they will be playing the team that I will be talking about next. UConn is still doing its thing. Girls, UConn is still doing its things. Coach Gino reaches his 15th Final Four appearance in 16 years after losing 5 players to season-ending injuries. And Paige Beckers returning from last year's season knee injury. Paige Beckers and the UConn Huskies defeat the 1 seed USC Trojans 80-73 in the Elite Eight. Paige Beckers and Aaliyah Edwards propelled and carried this team to victory. It was no question about it. Paige Beckers led the way with 28 to go along with 10 rebounds and 3 steals. And also she had 6 assists. Aaliyah Edwards chimed in with 24 and 6 and a huge 12-0 run late in the fourth quarter. After it was 64-63 in the fourth quarter, UConn goes on a 12-0 run to propel them to victory. Like I said, Paige Beckers had 28 and 10 to go along with 6 assists, and Aaliyah Edwards had 24 and 6. KK Arnold and Nika Mule, they both had 4 fouls. Nika Mule had 8 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. KK Arnold had 4 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist. And Juju Watkins, she played good. Mackenzie Forbes also played good. Juju Watkins had 29 and 10. Mackenzie Forbes had 24 and 3. Rhea Marshall had 11 and 11. She had a double-double. Kayla Padilla had 3. Kaylin Davis had 3. But overall, I had USC winning this game. But this game just showed me that Paige Beckers is still Paige Beckers. Even with the injury, the season-ending injury, Paige Beckers is still her. Aaliyah Edwards is her. And that 12-0 run in the fourth quarter after it was 64-63. Remember, in the third quarter, KK Arnold and Nika Mule, they had 4 fouls. So when they had 4 fouls and they had to get subbed out, USC made it a 4-point game going into the fourth quarter, and they made it get to a 1-point game. That was key for USC to come back. But Gino called timeout, got the team together, and they rolled on a 12-0 run. That is the definition of championship pedigree. That's what it is. It's situational moments in the game where you need to call timeout or you do something in the game to propel your team. Gino's been to 15 Final Fours in the past 16 seasons. Do you not see how crazy that is? That is very crazy, and that is impressive. But he got his team together and went on that 12-0 run. Just like with LSU and Iowa, this game was tied at halftime. Very good game. And another thing, too, with USC, one of the reasons why I feel as though they personally lost the game is there would be possessions where I get that Juju Watkins is trying to get her teammates involved, but there's possessions that was needed for USC that Juju didn't even touch the ball. She didn't even touch the ball or even attempt to touch the ball. And I felt as though that was one of the difference makers. Like, Juju played good. Juju kept him in the game. Mackenzie Forbes kept him in the game. But it was them few possessions in the game that she didn't want the ball. They end up turning the ball over or missing, and UConn goes up and stretches the lead. That was the difference in the game. Like I said, Juju played good. She played good, and they were cold somewhere in like the second quarter. They weren't really making shots, but the third and fourth quarter, they really stepped it up, and they played good. But UConn, when it matters most, you just can't count them out. No matter if they had 5 people suffer season-ending injuries. Remember, Paige Beckers coming out of high school was the best player coming out. She was the best player. She gets there her first couple of years, her first year in UConn. She was recognized as the face of women's college basketball. But then she gets that season-ending injury, and then you hear girls like Kaylin Clark. Now you hear girls like Juju Watkins. Now you hear Angel Reese. It was a span of time. 3 girls now become the face of women's college basketball, and now you don't hear about Paige Beckers. Paige Beckers isn't getting the credit that she deserves, or she's not on that same pedestal as those girls when it comes to the face of the NBA, the face of women's college basketball, like she used to. But this game showed that she is still her. She is still the top person in the women's college basketball. She is on that same tier with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, Cameron Brink as one of the faces in women's college basketball. This was championship pedigree right here. The 12-0 run, calling timeouts. There were certain possessions where they tried giving Juju Watkins the ball in like the little post on the wing and she could swing and pivot. And Paige Beckers intercepted the ball twice, both of them going for layups. That is straight film study and studying how USC plays and how they want to give the ball to Juju Watkins. And they played some great team defense on her. That was straight film study, straight up coaching and having a game plan on how you can stop Juju Watkins just enough to make your team win. You know, 5 girls on your team had injuries. So now you got to figure out who are your go-to girls. And Paige Beckers and Aaliyah Edwards were the go-to girls in this game, without question. It was a 2-girl show the whole entire game. No one was really doing anything else, but they did play good defense. But in regards to scoring strictly, it was Paige Beckers and Aaliyah Edwards the whole game. And they propelled that 12-0 run. I really feel bad for Juju Watkins. Juju Watkins will learn from this game. She would most definitely learn from this game. There were times where she could have got the ball, and I felt as though she needed to get the ball, and she just didn't. I know there was a whole lot of possessions where they wanted to have it back. And she will learn from it, most definitely. UConn shot 48% from the field. USC shot 32%. Like I said, they were sort of kind of cold in that second quarter. Sort of kind of cold. They weren't really hitting shots. So that was another difference maker in the game too. So UConn will be playing Iowa in the Final Four. In my projected bracket, if the bracket would have stayed the same, I had LSU, UConn, South Carolina, and dang, who was the other team that I had? Those were the 3 teams. It was USC, UConn, South Carolina, and dang, I'm saying USC again. What was the other team? I'm trying to think. LSU, UConn, South Carolina, USC. Those were the 4 teams. There we go. It was USC, UConn, LSU, and South Carolina. Those were my 4 teams in the projected bracket. You go back to that video. Those were my 4 teams. But since they moved Stanford over, and then they had UConn in a whole different bracket and all of that, it kind of messed it up a little bit. But if the bracket would have stayed the same, those were my final 4 teams. South Carolina, LSU, USC, and UConn. Those were my teams. But now, since they moved it, I had Stanford going. I knew I should not have trusted Stanford. I knew Stanford was going to lose. But they were in the same bracket as Texas. And I felt as though Texas was going to lose somewhere. And it just messed everything up. But good win for UConn. I wish both of these teams were in the Final Four. That would have been very great to see. But this was a very good win for UConn. This was a definition of when you don't have more than the other team, finding that grit and having a good coach that can propel you to victory no matter what situation you're in. And that's exactly what Gino did. No matter if he had all of these injuries, didn't have the talent like he did at the beginning of the season, and going up against a 1 seed and him being a 3 seed, and no one was really thinking about UConn. UConn's in the same region as USC. People thought that USC was going to win. People aren't really talking about UConn like they normally talk about UConn. They see UConn being a 3 seed in the tournament versus normally being a 1 seed in the tournament. And they thinking, oh, UConn had fell back a little bit. The teams that UConn has lost to, they're very good in the tournament. So maybe UConn, it isn't their year. But with somebody like Gino as the head coach of UConn, and just the championship pedigree and the resume that he has, the long resume that he has, you can never, no matter who is on the team year by year, you can never count out UConn. And that was the story of this game. USC has better talent. USC has two girls that can flat out ball in Juju and Mackenzie Forbes. And has solid role players. But when it comes to the championship pedigree and actually being in those positions, USC as a team doesn't know anything about they're young in regards to they don't know. But UConn does because they have a coach. And year by year, they're somewhere deep in the tournament. Or maybe at the Final Four. And that was a difference maker. So like I said, good win for UConn. And they will be going up against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now what's crazy about all of these things, everything that I just told you, with LSU and Iowa having 12.3 million views watching the game, USC and UConn coming up next, and both of those games being good games. Have we forgot that we have an undefeated team in women's college basketball? 37-0? Have we forgot that this same exact team lost their entire starting five and came back and rebuilt the whole entire team just for them to go undefeated? Have we forgot about that? How was the story more on Kaylin Clark going up against LSU when we have a whole undefeated team out here and nobody's talking about that? I don't get it. And that is absolutely crazy. I've never seen a undefeated team be so under the radar. It isn't topic of discussion nowhere. But I will be talking about it. The undefeated streak for South Carolina continues, being 37-0 and advancing to another Final Four as they defeat Oregon State 70-58. South Carolina outscores Oregon State 21-13 in the third quarter and got star forward Reagan Beers and Tamia Gardner in foul trouble with 4 fouls in the third. And Camila Cardoso kept breaking the zone, and South Carolina moves on to another Final Four. Oregon State hung around, but ultimately they could just never get the lead. Camila Cardoso had 12 points, 9 rebounds. Bree Hall, 10 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. Chloe Kitts had 2 points. Talia Pow with 5 points, 5 rebounds. You had Raven Johnson with 3 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. But the X factors on the team was Tessa Johnson and Ashlyn Watkins off of the bench with 8 points and 14 rebounds for Ashlyn Watkins, and Tessa Johnson on the point side of it having 15 points, 2 assists, and 1 rebound. Reagan Beers had 16 points. Tamia Gardner had 10 points. She had a double-double. Donovan Hunter had 10 points. Leela Hansford contributed off the bench with 12 points. Talila Von Ollie Hoffman had 8 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. And the crazy thing about all of that is the simple fact that pretty much it was tied. It was close in the game, but they just could never get the lead. They cut it down to 4 points. They'll cut it down to 6 points. Then they'll go back to double figures. Then they'll cut it down to 6 points, go back to double figures. Cut it down to 6 points, cut it down, then South Carolina would just score. It just felt as though Oregon State never had control from the moment the whistle was blown. And one of the crazier things, nobody on Oregon State starting five is shorter than 5'11". So they have a big team. Everybody is over 5'11" for the starting five. And they got out-rebounded 51-37. 51-37, and your entire team, your entire starting five is 5'11" or taller. That is crazy. And that's what lost them the game. They could not rebound. Camila Cardoso was rebounding. Ashlyn Watkins was rebounding. Had 14 rebounds off the bench. 14 rebounds off the bench. You're not going to win basketball games if you cannot rebound the basketball. They got out-rebounded in the offensive rebounding department 22-7. Second chance points is going to come just like that. Defensive rebounds. Yes, they won 30-29, but it was the offensive rebounding that killed them. They were in the zone the whole entire game, and they wanted South Carolina to shoot. But what was South Carolina doing? They were penetrating the mess out that zone. Penetrating the mess out that zone every single time. Especially if you got girls that can rebound, yeah, go ahead and penetrate. Because you know that if you miss, you got somebody that can go ahead, rebound, clean it up, put it back in. Tessa Johnson was the X factor, coming off the bench and having 15 points. Reagan Beers was in foul trouble. Star forward, foul trouble. Gardner, foul trouble. That's where I feel as though they lost the game at. You can't have your star players have foul trouble early in the game. It wasn't like they got all of these fouls late in the game. Nah, these were early pickups of fouls the whole entire game. And that's what propelled South Carolina to victory. Because once Reagan Beers was out, or once Gardner was out, they for sure is going to attack the zone every single time. And the offensive rebounding, like I said, killed them the whole entire game. There's no way that you should have all of your starting five be 5'11" and can't get rebounds. You got out-rebounded by 15. You cannot have that happen. You just can't. Oregon State had a good season this year. They finished 27-7. Last year they were 13-18. Had a good season, a great turnaround season. The last time they were in the tournament, they made a run in the tournament. This year, they made a run in the tournament. I had them getting to South Carolina. I had them beating Notre Dame because I like the team. I like how big they are, and I like how they play. So that's why I feel as though going up against South Carolina, yes, Camila Cardoso is a big girl. I get that she's tall. But overall as a team, you're taller. So there should be no reason where you get out-rebounded on the offensive glass. And that is going to cause for second chance points time and time again. And that's exactly what happened. South Carolina didn't even really need to shoot 3 balls because they were able to penetrate the zone every time. That was the story of the whole entire game. And South Carolina from jump controlled the game. Now, one thing with South Carolina that I will say that they didn't do against Indiana, they had the lead and they never gave it up. Remember, against Indiana, they were up by over 20. Indiana cut that junk down and they almost blew it. South Carolina would be up by double figures. Oregon State may cut it down to 6 and sometimes 4, but it never felt as though South Carolina was going to let go. Never felt like that at all. So that's why I personally feel as though the game against Indiana doesn't mean much because Dawn Staley is going to fix that up come against Oregon State, even though it was a day apart. And she was for sure gonna fix it up in the Final Four. For sure gonna fix it against the Final Four. Because you have to. So, this was a very good win for South Carolina. It was 70-58. That's what the final score was. But really, South Carolina dominated this game. South Carolina controlled the whole game. It really wasn't. It got close, but overall, it really wasn't close. It never felt as though Oregon State was finna come and be up on South Carolina at all. And the fact that they're 37-0 and nobody is talking about them. Where is the media really talking about how great this South Carolina team is? Are they great? No. But the fact that Don Staley had to rebuild the whole entire starting five and they're still undefeated, why isn't nobody talking about it? This should be really topic of discussion. Who is going to beat South Carolina? Why is there not a topic of discussion on who can compete with South Carolina and who could potentially beat them? Because I already knew South Carolina was going to steamroll to the Final Four. Nobody in that bracket had a chance on beating South Carolina. I was shocked when Indiana almost beat them watching the game and they were up by 20. That shocked me. But I didn't feel as though Oregon State was going to win. I thought they were going to make it like close. I maybe thought that they were going to tie it, but overall win the game. No, I didn't think that they were going to win the game. But nobody's talking about it though. Nobody's talking about it. So this is a good win for South Carolina. And South Carolina advances to another Final Four where they have the potential to win it all and be undefeated. So not only are the NC State Wolfpack, the men's team, doing good, which we'll be talking about here later in this podcast, not only are they doing good in the tournament, but the women's team, boy oh boy, the women's team is playing good too. After being down against Stanford last game to coming back and beating them to advance to the Elite Eight, NC State women's team beats the number 1 seed Texas Longhorns 76-66 to advance to their first Final Four appearance since 1998. After beating the 2 seed Stanford, Isaiah James had 29 against Stanford, and she comes back and drops 27 against Texas to propel them to victory. River Baldwin also had a very good game with 16 points, and NC State will be playing South Carolina in the Final Four. Like I said, River Baldwin had 16 points. Isaiah James had 27. Sanaya Rivers played a good game with 11 points. Zoe Brooks had 10. Mimi Collins had 10 points. Texas, Madison Booker, who didn't play good in the last tournament, had 17, 6, and 5. Aaliyah Moore had 10 and 9. Shay Holly had 12. Diana Gaston had 8 and 6. Taylor James had 11. They missed Rory Harmon. They missed All-American point guard Rory Harmon. My goodness. Because Isaiah James, first team All-ACC, she is a baller. She is a baller. Texas needed somebody on the point guard department to propel them, and Rory Harmon would have propelled them. I'm telling you right now, she would have propelled them. But NC State, when I tell you that Isaiah James is a baller, she can hoop. She got whatever she wanted against Texas. Whether that was layups, whether that was the 3-point ball, she got whatever she wanted. And River Baldwin also played a very good game. The key points that she had in the game really propelled them too. But Isaiah James, holy, if you haven't heard that name, you are hearing it today if you're watching this video. She is a baller. You need to watch out for her. You need to watch out for her because against Stanford, she did her thing against Stanford. Shooting threes, cutting backdoor, doing whatever she wanted against them. She did the same thing against Texas. And just like NC State boys basketball is on a hot streak, NC State girls basketball is on a hot streak right now. beating the 2 seed Stanford with the Pac-12 Player of the Year and Cameron Brink, and now beating Texas, the 1 seed. Oh yeah, this team, and they actually beat this team. They controlled this game. NC State controlled this game from start to finish. Start to finish. This was a very good win for NC State. It really put them on the map, for real. NC State is a very good team. Isaiah James is a baller. And if she can continuously get hers and also have girls like River Baldwin come and play, and Smile Rivers come and play, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem in this Final Four. The matchup that they have against South Carolina is kind of a brutal draw because one of the cons of NC State is that they're not really big. But if they can shoot, if Isaiah James can shoot, then they will be doing good things. They were 9 of 18 from three-point range. They shot 50% from three-point range. They shot 45% overall. If they can shoot against this South Carolina team, watch out for NC State. That is going to keep them in the game if they're able to shoot the lights out. And Isaiah James can shoot the lights out. They got a guard that can do that. If River Baldwin can do hers now, it's a kind of a tough draw against Camila Cardoso. But if she can get hers, there's going to be a problem. But it all comes down to their shooting abilities. They shot 50%. Texas only shot 16 from 3. They shot 45 from the game. Texas shot around 40. But they shot 20 less shots than Texas. That was the crazy thing about it. Texas shot more, but they weren't efficient at all. They out-rebounded them. They just couldn't hit their shots when it mattered. They just couldn't hit it. And like I said in the podcast, the last one, Texas has the talent, boys and girls, every year. They have the talent. But an injury like Rory Harmon hurts them very bad. And when it matters most in the tournament, Texas never propels. They were the 1 seed. You don't play Stanford, all you got to do is beat NC State. You have the talent. You have the team to beat NC State. You just got outplayed the whole game. You got outplayed. You have the talent to beat NC State. But they were outcoached and they were outplayed. And NC State shot better than Texas. They just did. And Texas is just like, man, it's hard to see because of the simple fact you have the team every year. You have it. And this was really the team, especially if Rory Harmon ain't get hurt. But even with her getting hurt in December, you still propelled to the 1 seed. You still had the team to win. You don't go up against Stanford. All you got to do is beat NC State. And you couldn't do it. How does this happen? How does this happen? Texas, I don't know when you're going to reach into the Final Four. I don't know. But this was a good win for NC State. Like I said, Isaiah James, if you don't know about her, tune into her. Tune into her. She is on the radar against South Carolina without question. She is on a tear, going for almost 30 in both games against the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed. She is on everybody's map in women's college basketball. So like I said, to the casual watchers, if you don't know who she is, tune in. So now we are going to give my Final Four prediction. Who is going to win it all, should I say? Who is going to come out with the trophy? And this is going to be the perfect bracket, period. I thought that my bracket, I thought it was going to be the perfect bracket. It felt so good. I got some teams, I got the Elite 8 teams, some of them right. But I felt as though I had the perfect bracket. let's go ahead and show you what my bracket was. J. Coleman for the win. I had it. It was looking good. I had the 2 and 3. I had Oregon State. I had this right. This was just wrong. I almost had it. Then obviously Stanford losing. That messed me up. That messed me up big time. USC, they losing big time. But now we're going to start all over and create the perfect Final Four champion in the perfect bracket. So we have South Carolina versus NC State. Like I said, if NC State can shoot, because they shot 50% from the field against Texas on threes and they shot 45 for the game, if they're able to shoot the lights out against South Carolina can easily lose to NC State. Isaiah James is going to get hers. She's going to get hers. She's been on a tear. But if they could shut her down, it'll be a long day for NC State. It'll be a long day for NC State. But if she's on and the rest of the team is on, it's going to be a very close game versus South Carolina. They're going to give South Carolina a run for their money, especially if they're all on. But personally, I got South Carolina making it to the championship game. I had Stanford. Stanford played soft against them coming towards the end of the game. And yes, I get that NC State is hot. I get it. I get that the boys and girls are hot. But I personally feel as though South Carolina is going to come out with the W. But I wouldn't be surprised if NC State makes it close and it's close throughout the whole game. Maybe South Carolina goes on a run, but NC State comes roaring back with Isaiah James. But I feel as though Camila Cardoso, Tessa Johnson is going to propel them to victory. Both of those girls. So now we have Iowa and UConn. Now, that is hard because I'm going to tell you why. Gino has that championship pedigree. Gino has been in the situation before. Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark is going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one to see. That's probably going to be the late game. It's going to be great. I wonder what UConn's game plan is going to be to defeat Iowa. I wonder what it is. Are they going to let Caitlin Clark get 30 points, but she's not going to get no assists and nobody else is going to go off? Or are they going to shut down Caitlin Clark completely? Either way it goes, if they're able to shut down the teammates, I personally don't believe that Caitlin Clark is going to be enough to beat the UConn team. It's not going to be enough unless Paige Beckers has a bad game. Unless Paige Beckers has a bad game, then yeah. But personally, that's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a very tough game. But I just feel as though I got UConn beating Iowa to advance. I have them beating Iowa to advance. It's going to be very close. I'm telling you right now, Caitlin Clark is going to drop 40 points. Caitlin Clark is going to drop 40 points. 35 to 40. That's where it's going to be. But one thing I will say, she's not getting more than 10 assists. I don't think she's going to get more than 10 assists. I feel as though Gino, what he needs to do is shut down the other teammates and just let Caitlin Clark go. Because Caitlin Clark's going to go. She runs that whole team. She runs the entirety of that game. Unless maybe you could just double. Because one thing about Iowa's team, Iowa has streaky players on their team. Other than Caitlin Clark, everybody on the team is streaky. Right now, they're high. Right now, they're scoring. Kate Martin, Althofer, they're doing good right now. But in the regular season, they were very up and down. They're very streaky. So maybe you can double Caitlin Clark and force Caitlin Clark to be a passer. But other than that, I don't feel as though I just don't feel as though they're going to do that. I feel as though what they are going to do is pretty much let Caitlin Clark do her and let the other girls get shut down. But I feel as though Paige Beckers is going to have a good game. Same with Aaliyah Edwards. Going to have good games. But I personally have UConn making it to the championship game. So, South Carolina versus UConn. That is going to be a very, very good game. That's a brutal matchup. Because the Camila Cardoso is just, I just feel like she's going to dominate. The only way, if she gets in foul trouble, then it's going to be a little bit hard to beat this UConn team. But if Camila Cardoso can stay in the game, I feel as though South Carolina is going to beat UConn. And me personally, I feel as though she's going to stay in the game, and I feel as though the role players are going to do their thing. So, Fool Wally ain't even have a good game against Oregon State, but I'm waiting for her to have a good game in whether that's the Final Four game against NC State or it's in the championship game. She is going to come and step up. So, personally, I have South Carolina going undefeated and winning the national championship game. Let me know what y'all think. So now, since we're done talking about the women's game, we're going to talk a little bit about the men's game that happened a few days ago. We're going to start off with the UConn Huskies as they dominate Illinois 77-52 to advance to back-to-back Final Four appearances. The Huskies go on an unbelievable 30-0 run after the game was tied 23-23 in the first half, and they didn't look back. UConn holds star guard Terrence Shannon Jr. to just 8 points, who was averaging over 20 points in the whole tournament. Donovan Clingan was the difference maker in the game, having a double-double with 22 points and 10 rebounds, but he also had 5 blocks. It really felt as though he had like 7, 8, 9 blocks. And UConn will play Alabama in the Final Four. Tristan Newton didn't even have really a good game. He didn't go off. Stephon Castle ain't go off. It was really just the Donovan Clingan show. Like I said, he had 22 and 10. As you see, Donovan Castle had 2.6 rebounds. Hassan Dara had 11 points and 3 rebounds. Cam Spencer had a double-double. He played good with 11 and 12. And then you had Alex Caravan with 10 points. Illinois, other than Marcus Damask, nobody played good. And even Marcus Damask, he didn't play good at all either. He just had 17 points. He was the only one in double figures. But Coleman Hawkins, who I felt as though needed to step up against Donovan Clingan somewhat, he didn't play good at all. Terrence Shannon, I thought he was going to get his, because he's been one of the more dominant players in all of college basketball and even in the whole tournament. He only had 8 points, so that was very surprising. And Illinois went 50 minutes real time without scoring a bucket. 50 minutes real time. Do you not know how crazy that is? I don't even think I've ever seen a 30-0 run in a basketball game. Ever. And then it was tied 23-23. They were keeping up with UConn. I didn't think that they were going to beat UConn, but another thing that I didn't expect either was UConn to go on a 30-0 run and Illinois doesn't score in almost an hour time. That can't happen. That just can't happen. Terrence Shannon didn't even get his. It felt as though when Terrence Shannon would go to the rim, Donovan Clingan was right there, block it every time. And it's crazy that Donovan Clingan had 5 blocks. It felt as though he had way more. It felt as though he could have had a triple-double with blocks. That's how dominant Donovan Clingan was. And the fact that it only shows that he had 5 blocks is really crazy. I know he had so many shot contests. He altered shots, caused turnovers. And he was the one that changed the entire game. and they just rolled from there. The 30-0 run really propelled them to victory, and they never looked back after that 30-0 run. Never looked back. Illinois, this was a very good season. When they got back Terrence Shannon, it was just going straight. It went all-time high. It took Illinois from right down here to all the way up here. Terrence Shannon was the difference maker. They get to March Madness. They adjusted to how every single team played. They would start off slow, and then they would propel to victory with Terrence Shannon from start to finish. Whether it was against Morehead State or if it was against the number one defense in the Sweet 16, Iowa State. They adjusted and they played. Dane Danger didn't even score a point. Lou Goody didn't even score. You got the shooter that can't score, and then you have the post person who played a good game against Iowa State, didn't do anything against UConn. So the role players don't play good, and even if your star players, Terrence Shannon Jr. and Coleman Hawkins, they don't play good, you're not going to win. You're not going to win at all. And that's exactly what happened against UConn. But that 30-0 run, Jesus Christ, that killed them. That killed them. It's tied, and then you go almost an hour without scoring. It just killed them. So good win for UConn. They still dominate. They're too fundamental. Anybody on this team could have a good game, whether that's Castle, whether that's Newton, whether that's Klingon, whether that's Caravan. They can all have good games at any point in time. So, good win for UConn. So, like I said, NC State is on a hot streak. The men's team is on a hot streak. And it was the DJ Burns show as NC State dominates Duke 76-64 to advance to the Final Four for the first time since 1983, the year that they won it all. NC State controlled the game in the second half, being up double figures, and star center Kyle Filipowski fouled out for the Duke Blue Devils. Jerry McCain had 32 points, but it wasn't enough to secure the W. Like I said, it was the DJ Burns show. The whole entire game, DJ Burns was just doing whatever he wanted. DJ Burns had 29 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. DJ Horn had 20 points, also 3 assists and 4 rebounds. Michael O'Connell did 6 points and 11 rebounds. Casey Morsell had 8 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. And Muhammad Dara had 3 points, 1 assist, and 7 rebounds. Now, mind you, he averages a double-double in the tournament, and he didn't really play too well. So, I'm expecting him to play pretty good, maybe next game against Purdue. Like I said, Jerry McCain had 32, 6, and 1. Jeremy Roach had 13. That was a quiet 13. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. With 3 assists, 3 rebounds. Kyle Filipowski had 11 points and 9 rebounds. But like I said, he fouled out the whole game. Tyrese Proctor, who played good against Houston, coming up with big defensive plays, he didn't even score a point. Didn't even score a point against NC State. So they couldn't even guard DJ Burns the whole entire game. That's exactly what it was. NC State controlled this game. I personally felt as though Duke was not going to lose twice to NC State. I get that NC State was hot, but I thought that Cinderella story was going to end against Duke. I thought whoever won between Houston and Duke was going to go to the Final Four. But NC State showed a lot. NC State has proved a whole lot of people wrong, and everybody in America wants DJ Burns to make it to the championship game. Everybody wants NC State. Everybody wants to see DJ Burns make it. I want to see DJ Burns make it. DJ Burns is cold. DJ Burns is cold, and he was the difference maker. DJ Horn also chimed in with 20. If they both are on, NC State is on. Point blank, period. You saw it in the ACC tournament, and both of those guys are on, they're going to do successful things. You saw it in the tournament, and you see it in the March Madness tournament as well. So this was a very good W for NC State. Two teams with something to prove, both teams with a whole lot of pressure and weight on their shoulders. It was the Dalton Connect show versus Zach Edey, and both of them did very good. The Zach Edey show lived up to what it needed to, and the Purdue Boilermakers advanced to the Final Four. Even though Dalton Connect had 37 points, Zach Edey was just too much for the Tennessee Volunteers, as Zach Edey had 40 points and 16 rebounds and got guys in foul trouble. Like I said, it was the Zach Edey show and the Dalton Connect show. That's exactly what this game was. As you see, Dalton Connect had 37 points, but nobody else could get in the double figures. If Dalton Connect just had one person help him, they would have won this game. But he had no help. No help. Zakai Ziegler, 9 points, 8 assists. He didn't play good. Josiah James didn't play good. A-Dude didn't play good. Zach Edey just got them to foul out. And that's what Zach Edey does. That's what teams that play against Purdue, it's tough to play against them because of the foul trouble. You see, Zach Edey had 40 and 16. Fletcher Lawyer had 14. He chimed in. No one else had over double figures, but like I said, Zach Edey was just the difference maker. Getting guys in a foul trouble every single time a team plays Purdue, that's one of the things that they fear. Zach Edey, 7'4". You try and block his shot. You try and defend him the best way you can, but he gets you in foul trouble. He makes you go deep in your rotation, and there's just not going to be no answer for him. Not going to be no answer for Zach Edey. And Dalton Connect, if he would have had just one other guy show up, they could have won this game. But Zach Edey is just too much. He's too much for any team in the nation right now. And finally, they make it to a Final Four after losing to Fairleigh Dickinson, losing to St. Peter's, North Texas, all in these previous years. Finally, they make it to a Final Four. And personally, I feel as though this ain't even the best team. This ain't even the best team. It just feels as though they just have Zach Edey and that's it. You've had Jaden Ivey, you've had Williams, and there has been nobody. You've had Carson Edwards, and they lose to Virginia. You've had better teams than this Purdue team. And that's how I feel about them. Yeah, they made it to the Final Four, but is this really like one of the more dominant teams? No, other than Zach Edey. That's really it, but good win for Purdue. Tennessee, if you just had somebody else other than Dalton Connect, y'all could have won this game. Now, for those of y'all that don't know, I am a Alabama football fan, but I'm also an Alabama basketball fan as well. And both teams make it to the Final Four, make it to the end of the road, whether that is the college football playoffs or if that is the Final Four in March Madness. Alabama is headed to their first NCAA Final Four after beating Clemson 89-82 in a very close game. Grant Nelson was the X factor against North Carolina last game for the Crimson Tide, and Nick Pringle was the X factor for this game against Clemson, coming up with 16 points to contribute, but having some key offensive rebounds to secure the game for the Crimson Tide. Alabama overall played pretty good basketball, and they win in the rematch from earlier in this season. Mark Sears got 23 points, but it took him towards late in the first quarter to really get going and score. Actually, Mark Sears, like I said, had 23 points. Rylan Griffin had 13. Jaron Stevenson off the bench also played good, hitting 3 balls, 19 points. Nick Pringle had 16 and 11, though. Aaron Estrada had 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. What's crazy about Aaron Estrada, me personally, watching Alabama basketball throughout the whole entire season, I never felt as though Aaron Estrada was like really all of that. I'm looking at him like, okay, Aaron Estrada, he's starting. But is he really all of that? I didn't see how good Aaron Estrada was until I watched that North Carolina game. He finally showed me in that North Carolina game why he was really what he is in regards to being a starter for the Crimson Tide. Joe Girard had 19 points. P.J. Hall and Ian Sheffin contributed with 14 and 18. They were mainly giving it to those three guys, mainly P.J. Hall and Shefflin in the post, and they were trying to get all the paint points that they could. Clemson, Chase Hunter had 12 points. R.J. Godfrey had 12 points as well, and Jack Clark had 7 points. But Alabama was on. They were shooting threes, making them. They were doing what Alabama basketball is. They shot 44% from the three-point range. They shot 46% overall, and they made 16 threes. Clemson only made 8. They shot better. Clemson shot 47%. They shot more shots. They made more shots. It's just Alabama made more threes. And when it mattered most on the offensive rebounding, they got out-rebounded on offensive rebounding 19-15. And they got out-rebounded, period. And that is what was the difference maker. The out-rebounding of Alabama. It was close throughout the whole game. Even though Clemson was up by double figures early in the game, and I thought personally when they went up early, oh yeah, they were going to win this game. Alabama came roaring back. And after that, it was close throughout the whole entire game. No team could just break away. So, good win for Alabama, making it to the Final Four. And like I said, that rebounding was key. Nick Pringle played great in the game. Great. Stevenson, great. Sears, great. Especially in the second half. Great. Overall, everybody played good. It was just great team ball. Clemson, it was straight P.J. Hall and Shefflin. Joe Girard, he was getting it going, but really the game plan was to get the paint points. That's really what it was the whole entire game. It was like that against Arizona, and they were beating Arizona on backdoor cuts like crazy. And overall, Arizona got out-coached because of that, and they were just dominating them in the paint. Here, they were getting paint points as well, but they only lost by 7. The difference was Alabama made almost double the amount of threes that Clemson made. That was the difference in rebounding. So, good win for the Crimson Tide. So, my predictions for the Final Four bracket, the Final Four team, should I say, UConn, Alabama, NC State, and Purdue. I personally feel as though this bracket, this March Madness was over before it started. It was over before it started. I didn't want to have a back-to-back team make it to the Final Four and win it all, but I'm not even going to lie to you. There's nobody out there that can beat UConn. Nobody out there that can beat this UConn team. Maybe Purdue, but personally, I feel as though they're not going to get no help from anybody other than Zach Edey. Zach Edey is going to get his. Purdue may make it close, but Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle, Caravan, the depth that UConn just has on that team alongside with Klingon is just better overall than any other team in the Final Four. Alabama, yeah, they did good. Round of applause. I feel happy for my team. I feel happy that Bama Ball made it to the Final Four. But they get a brutal draw against UConn, and UConn has never lost, and UConn has always beat these teams by double figures. Last tournament and this tournament, Alabama has to play UConn, and they finna get their ass smacked by 20. 15 minimum. Especially if they ain't hitting threes. That's the only way that Alabama can keep up with this team. But you've seen it time and time again. The teams that they have lost to, they are not able to hit the three ball. And that is literally Alabama basketball. They run down the court, fast-paced offense, shoot threes. If they're off, if Sears is off, game over. Game over. So they got to be able to hit their threes in order to keep the game close. But overall, UConn is going to go on a big run. If Alabama can make threes, they may be able to keep up with them, but I just don't feel as though they're going to keep up with them. I'm going to just be honest. They're not. So I have UConn beating them boys by 15 minimum. Now, NC State versus Purdue. NC State is hot right now. I love NC State. I want DJ Burns to make it to the championship. I want DJ Horn to make it. I want them to. But man, who's going to guard Zach Edey on that side? It's like UConn has the depth to beat and blitz Alabama. On that side of the bracket with Purdue and NC State, nobody can guard Zach Edey. And especially Zach Edey gets guys in foul trouble. So if DJ Burns gets into foul trouble, oh, this game is over. This game is over. So it's like it's a bad draw for Alabama and NC State. So personally, I have Purdue making it to the championship game. Now, UConn versus Purdue. It's going to be a good game. Zach Edey's going to get his. If Zach Edey can do what he did against Tennessee, I'm not even going to lie to you. Purdue can mess around and win. Purdue can mess around and win against UConn. But I feel as though Tristan Newton having 5 points is not going to happen again. Stephon Castle not getting the double figures, that's not going to happen again. Klingon is still going to get his. So with that in mind, I personally feel as though they are going to win. UConn is going to take it home. They're probably going to win by like 8. That's going to be the only game where it's just close throughout the whole entire game and they're not going to dominate Purdue. So let me know what y'all think. So now we're going to talk about a case that I talked about a couple of months ago. Got to talk about Diddy. Diddy is back in some more trouble, and this is some serious trouble. A raid has happened. Yes, a raid has happened. Diddy's LA and Miami home were raided by Homeland Security in a sex trafficking investigation. Phones and electronic devices were confiscated. Diddy and Brendan Paul were talked to at the airport, and Brendan Paul, who was arrested and he was accused of being Diddy's drug mule. He got arrested for felony charges of possession of suspected cocaine and possession of suspected marijuana. Diddy was not arrested. Diddy is still in a pending civil cases for multiple sex trafficking accusations and sexual assault against 4 girls. Lil Rodney also accused Diddy of sexual assault. He was working for Diddy and states that Diddy has cameras everywhere in his house for the sex trafficking. No criminal charges has been presented. Like it says on here, federal agents raided his Miami and LA houses on March 15th, and properties were confiscated, and Diddy was trying to go to the Bahamas, but it ain't end up happening. While the investigation is still going on, a source close to the investigation told NBC News that the raid was in connection to sex trafficking and sexual assaults and the solicitation and distribution of illegal narcotics and firearms. 3 women and 1 man had been interviewed by federal officials in Manhattan in relation to the investigation, the sources shared. And yes, so Diddy is in some huge trouble. This wasn't the LAPD or Miami PD that came to his house. It was Homeland Security, and Homeland Security, one of the things that they do search for is potential sex trafficking. So if they hear word of sex trafficking investigations, Homeland Security is going to bust through those doors. So nobody is going to come through and raid your house unless they have something. You have to get probable cause in order to literally raid a person's house. So the fact that they raided both of the houses, it is very serious for Diddy. Diddy is in some huge, huge trouble. Nothing criminally has came just yet, but they're on him like white on rice. They is on his ass. And the fact that they have Homeland Security raid his house, both of them, they confront him at the airport, they find him, even though they didn't find nothing on him, they are on him, confiscating electronic devices, trying to make sure that they don't have anything sex trafficking related. This is very serious for Diddy. Very serious. And we saw it with R. Kelly. People tried to blind what R. Kelly was doing based off how his music was to his fans. But once they found out that R. Kelly was really guilty of all the things that he was alleged on doing, we looked at R. Kelly different. We tried so many times to blind ourselves, the fans, on what R. Kelly was really doing. But if you're messing with minors, that just doesn't cut it no way, shape, or form. And it's the same with Diddy. You having all of these accusations against these women, but when minors come involved in it, it's shut down. You got to take it very serious. We're in a generation right now where you see more and more women now starting to come out about the things that have happened to them. Ever since the Me Too movement, you're starting to see more women come out and express the traumatic experiences that they have been going to and putting the people behind bars, giving the people the necessary punishments that they need. Now, civilly, things have been transpiring. Obviously, you've been seeing the thing with Cassie getting her money, her settlement with Diddy, and it was undisclosed. So now these girls are now trying to file him civilly and now trying to get him criminally now. But you're seeing more and more and more and more stories about Diddy. The Revolt brand that he had, the deal, that's gone. He had to get rid of that, even though there's nothing on him criminally. But civilly, the sex trafficking, like, you cannot beat that. The sexual assault, you cannot beat that. So he had to get rid of Revolt. This is just another R. Kelly investigation that we're seeing. Now, the way that they came to his house and they were detained his sons, and they came with, all of the Homeland Security, they treated Diddy, I'm not even going to lie to you, they treated Diddy like he was just a bad person.
But you can see a number of those officers making...
Look at how many people are coming to him. Look at how many people are at his house. It was so many officers. So many officers. Now, nothing is criminally right now. He's not charged with nothing criminally. So I feel as though he shouldn't have all of that excessive force against him, because nothing is criminally there's nothing criminal against him. Everything is straight civil. So the fact they're bringing all of these officers, I get that it's sex trafficking right now, but unless it's a warrant for criminal charges, there should be no need for all of these officers to come to his house and raid it like that. They could have handled it a little bit differently, but Diddy is in some big trouble. They're comparing Diddy to the Jeffrey Epstein of hip hop, and personally, I just feel as though, like, we didn't know that Diddy was like this. It's just now starting to come out. We knew that Jeffrey Epstein was like that. We knew that he was messing with these girls and stuff like. We didn't know that with Diddy. So the fact that he's getting put in that same position, like, I could see it, but at the same time I can't. I feel as though He's more so closer to R. Kelly than he is with Jeffrey Epstein. He's more closer to that, for real. But the whole thing is just crazy and it's ridiculous. Crazy and ridiculous. And Diddy, if I was him, I would keep my mouth closed. You can't talk right now. You need to stay quiet. You being on social media and acting like everything is good. Everything is not good. When somebody raids your house, both of them at that, nothing is good right now. So you need to stay under the radar right now. You need to not say nothing because you have females on you. You have workers on you. People doing interviews about you. So many people doing these freak sessions, these freak off sessions, should I say, having all of these bottles, having these drugs and drugging these girls, and then you sexually assaulting them. Everything is looking bad on you, Diddy. And nothing is nailed in the coffin. You're found guilty just yet. Criminally, even though the whole thing with Cassie, you gave her a settlement, y'all agreed to it. If all of these stories are true, Diddy can never recover from this. He will get treated like R. Kelly. He already is getting treated like him right now. But if this gets to the court and the judge and they say that Sean Diddy Combs is found guilty of sex trafficking, sexual assault, him and R. Kelly eviscerated. Gone. He is in a world of trouble. He can never recover from it. So it's best for Diddy to not say anything because there's nothing that he can say that people are going to find good. Nothing good about it. He can deny all he wants, which he did a couple of months ago. But guess what? More and more people were coming out and more people were doing interviews. The security guard was doing interviews. You got people that was working for you coming out on social media. It's not looking good. You can deny all you want, but if so many people are saying the same exact stories, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. They're going to believe in that. I'm going to believe in that. But until the court has enough to charge Diddy criminally, right now it's just open. And civilly, should I say. It's just open right now. It's blood in the water. It's hot right now. The seat is hot for Diddy. But nothing has happened just yet for us to really crucify him. Just yet. I want to. Don't get it twisted. If all of this is true, he is a bad individual. He needs to go to jail for the same time, if not longer, than R. Kelly. Because R. Kelly was messing with minors. He's doing the same thing. And he's messing with these girls when they were younger. And messing with Lil Rod and the sexual assault, all of that. His own workers, all of that. If all of this is true, he is a bad person and he needs to go to jail. And he needs to get treated like R. Kelly. Officially. But right now it's just open. We're still trying to figure out news. Now, Brendan Paul, I talked about him on my Real Spill. He's just following. He had a promising career. Whether that was in basketball or not. He was a D1 player once upon a time and played for Syracuse University. D1 ball. Then it comes out he is a part of Diddy's ring and controlling the drugs and guns. Are you serious? Are you serious? And it's crazy to see people like that. People that have promising careers get influenced by the people around them and they mess around and crash out. Now, I'm not going to judge him. Maybe he is like that, but 9 times out of 10, if you play basketball, I mean, what are you doing selling cocaine or having possession of it and having possession of all of these drugs? What are you doing? You have a promising career. I don't care if it's Diddy. I don't care if it's anybody. Those are things that you just don't do. And you hooping, you had hoop dreams, but you just turn and do something like this is absolutely ridiculous. So the environment that you're around can significantly impact that, But at the same time, you have people that'll just flash out, want to be like people from the hood, or be like people that sell drugs or do any illegal activities, scamming, all of that, robbing, scamming, killing, all of that, and mess around and just crash out. And those are the ones that I just hate. Promising careers and get influenced and want to be like people and just crash out. Diddy's in a whole lot of trouble. If Diddy gets charged criminally or civilly, it doesn't matter the two, but especially criminally. If he gets charged with any sex trafficking or any sexual assault charges on any one of these women or Lil Rod, Diddy will never recover from this. He will never recover from it. It's slim right now because there isn't nothing charged against him criminally. They just raided his house and trying to confiscate that and continue and trying to build a case against him. But if it gets to the criminal court and he gets found guilty, it's over. It's over. Just like with R. Kelly. It's over. Don't hear about R. Kelly no more. R. Kelly was at the top. Gets found guilty. Don't even hear about him. So, Diddy needs to stay quiet and just let all this play out. And don't step out to the social media realm because he is going to get crucified. That's what my advice is to Sean Diddy Combs. Now the last topic that we will be talking about is Metro and Future. They released their highly anticipated album, We Don't Trust You, and it debuted at #1 on Billboard, selling 251K first week. It had 5 songs in the top 10, including Like That featuring Kendrick Lamar and Type Shit featuring Travis Scott and Playboi Carti, going 1-2 on billboards. The Drake and Metro beef is getting heated. So is Drake and Kendrick. Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick, should I say. Metro says pick a side. My top 5 songs on it is Type Shit is #1. I don't care what nobody says. The bottom, from 2 to 5, it ain't no particular order, but Type Shit is just that. And we will be talking about it here in a little bit. Young Metro, We Don't Trust You, Seen It All, and Cinderella, which is a snippet from, it's actually a leaked song of Family Forever. Ice Attack is actually the snippet. There was features on this album from Rick Ross to The Weeknd, Kendrick Lamar, like I said, Playboi Carti, and Travis Scott. And yeah, honorable mentions to my top 5 is Claustrophobic, Ain't No Love, and Slime Thin. Overall, I feel as though this album was a good album. This album was better than Drake's album. Metro came through and did his thing, from the samples on Like That, from the samples on the song with Rick Ross. Like, there was just great overall. Everyday Hustle, that's the song. Great songs, great samples by Metro. And Metro and Future coming together was great. Now, I was questioning, is the Metro and 21 collab gonna be better than is it still gonna be better than the Metro and Future collab? But hey, with the time frame that it is when this album dropped, and this album is, the beef with Metro and Drake and all of these things, and Metro and Future, they bring Kendrick on the album, and Kendrick hasn't dropped in a little minute, and Kendrick Lamar comes out and starts snapping, and he addresses everything that Drake was saying, and it's literally good. This can age and be better than Savage Mode. It can. Like I said, Type Shit is the best song on this album. Oh my. Can we just please just appreciate Playboi Carti's feature run? Playboi Carti's feature run is, oh my goodness, top tier. He was just on Kanye West, should I say, his album, and had Carnival and Fuck Some, but Carnival was really just top tier. He took over that song, and he comes on Future's album, and puts up another banger of a feature. Can we just appreciate that? Type shit is just like an anthem right now. Type shit is like literally pushing P on steroids. That's like the best comparison. Type shit is like pushing P with Gunna, Young Thug, and Future on Drip Season Forever. That's exactly what it is, but on steroids. On steroids. It's top tier from top to bottom. Top to bottom. Travis Scott is crazy. Travis Scott never misses on features, but Travis Scott was the worst feature on here. The worst feature on here. Yes, he made like the bridge for Playboy Cardi, but overall, like he was the worst person on here. And he did good. That's the crazy thing about it. Cinderella, he did good on there too. I couldn't wait for that song to drop. And Travis Scott did his thing on the album. But Kendrick Lamar, my goodness. Kendrick Lamar came and was talking his shit on like that. Addressing J. Cole and Drake and the big three. There isn't no big three. Kendrick is the best one out of all of them. That is what he's saying. And everything that Drake has been saying, the little slugs, the Kendrick, like, he doesn't like that. So he expressed all of that. And on the Eazy-E beat, like, that was top tier by Metro. And nobody was expecting Kendrick to be on the album. They said that there wasn't going to be no features on the album just for Kendrick to be on it, Travis Scott, Cardi. But really, Kendrick, that was like a surprise to everybody listening to it for the first time. That song didn't disappoint at all. Like that, I don't even know why I didn't put it in my top 5. Like That is actually in the top 5. I don't know why they put it in the top 5, but Like That is most definitely top 5 for sure. This album, top to bottom, was a pretty good one. He had some misses on there that I really didn't mess with. GTA, I wasn't really messing with like that. Where My Twin that I wasn't really messing with like that. There was just certain songs on there that I wasn't really messing with, but it had a whole lot of top tier songs on there. Starting with We Don't Trust You. And another thing that I will say about Metro's albums, if you don't listen to the album top to bottom from number 1 song to the bottom and you just randomize it, you're crazy. Because the beat change and the way that the first song will go with the next song coming after that, like, it's phenomenal. We Don't Trust You, the Young Metro, phenomenal. Like, he has things that he does that I just really love in regards to when he makes these albums. So, and Future just did his thing. Future overall just did his thing. And like I said, type shit is just like, it's just got, what? Top tier. Like that. Top tier. Top tier. Young Metro. Top tier. But we just got to appreciate Playboy Cardi right now. If Playboy Cardi drops a album right now, if he drops it today, the next week, that album is going to go so crazy. It's like all of the runs that Playboy Cardi has had, all of the phases, Cash Cardi, Deep Voice Cardi, all of the phases that he has had, whole lot of red, that phase is just phenomenal. Like, to where he is now, like, this might be one of the best versions. I ain't even gonna lie. It may be. And he hasn't even dropped the album. But if he drops the album and that album is top tier, holy. He's already been on a run, starting with 2024. The first song that he dropped, all the way until now. It's just been a phenomenal run. And this run has to be studied. Everybody want to get on a track with Cardi right now because Cardi is just going to do it every time. He's going to do it every time. He was just on a track with The Weeknd and Madonna, and that song just did good. Like, how? It's just good. So Playboy Cardi is on a good run. This Future album really lived up to it. Now, side that I'm on, even with all of this, I'm still on the Drake side. The reason why I'm on the Drake side is because I don't think there's no one in the industry that could really fuck with Drake. I don't think no one in the industry could really fuck with him for real. So, me personally, Drake got Bad Bunny. He got people on it, even though Metro got people too. He got 21, Kendrick. Oh, Drake also got J. Cole as well. Metro got people. Metro got people. Now, what's interesting is Lil Durk and Lil Baby. I wonder what side would they choose. Will Lil Durk be on Drake's side? Will Lil Baby be on Drake's side? Or will they be on Metro's side? That would be crazy. I think Durk would probably be, oh, dang, that's tough. Would Durk be on Future side and Metro side? Like, that'll be... I think Durk will be on Drake's side, and I think Baby would be on Drake's side. Yeah, I think Baby will be on Drake's side too. So me personally, I'm on Drake's side. I'm sorry. Drake better than J. Cole and Kendrick in my personal opinion. Anyways, but needless to say, if I had to choose between Metro and Drake, I'm choosing Drake. Simple as that. But overall, this was a very good album, Metro and Future. Let's just talk about the album itself. It was just great. Ice Attack, Cinderella type shit, Young Metro, so many good songs on here, and it lived up to what it needed to be. So very good album for Metro and Future, and I want to see how Drake reacts, how Drake responds on the next album, or how Drake and J. Cole is going to respond, or if they're going to respond at all. I know Drake is going to respond, but I haven't really been hearing much, obviously, about J. Cole. But I want to see how they're going to respond on the next albums. So we'll just have to see about it. Good album overall. So with that in mind, that is the end of this podcast episode. If you made it to the end of this podcast episode, please sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you get the latest updates on when I post a full podcast episode or a full Real Spill Wednesday. More videos will be dropping real soon. Y'all follow me on IG, TikTok, and X at The Truth Comes to Light Podcast. And with that in mind, I love each and every one of y'all. And y'all have a nice rest of y'all day.